Have you ever hired an expert, a professional? You love their work, you trusted them enough to invest your hard earned money, and then found yourself wanting to change everything that they created for you? I'm specifically talking about that moment when you see your new brand colors on your website and suddenly think, wait, maybe I should have picked something else. Or when you read the copy your copywriter wrote for you and it feels too bold, too personal, too you. If you have ever been there or you are thinking about potentially hiring a designer and you're worried this might happen, this is the episode for you. It's going to be really helpful. Because here's the thing, I've noticed a pattern over the last few years when I've worked with new business owners, and I want to talk about it openly and honestly so you can avoid some really expensive mistakes and know whether you are truly ready to invest in professional design. Welcome to Website Design Made Simple, the podcast for busy small business owners who want a high-performing website that converts and sells their offers, even while they're sleeping. Because you deserve to have a strategic and beautiful website that truly represents your brand and positions you as the expert that you are. I'm your host, Jenny B, web designer and creative director at Jenny B Designs, where we believe that your website is the one thing that makes you sales and builds your brand at the same time. Ready to say goodbye to a website that you're embarrassed to share? And hello to a money-making, personality-packed powerhouse? Let's head into today's episode. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am Jenny B, and if we haven't already met, I own Jenny B Designs, and we are a brand and web design studio that truly loves helping small business owners just like you design a beautiful, but more importantly, strategic brand and website that attracts your ideal clients and makes you money. Today, I want to have a real talk episode about something that I've been seeing happen more and more, specifically when I work with new business owners. I actually recently finished a website for a new business owner last year. She was excited to work with me. We did all of the things. We started with her visual brand, created her logo, her colors, her fonts. Then we started working on her copywriting with a copywriter partner that I work with a lot of times who does such an incredible job of bringing out the personality that a business has, brings it out into life in these words that she writes. And then finally, I designed her website. But here is what happened. After we talked about her goals, what she liked visually, what she didn't like, I came back with some visual concepts of the logo, and she ended up completely redoing them herself in Canva and sending them back to me. When we talked about colors based on strategy and her ideal client, she decided she wanted to pick some ones that she liked better, that she felt were more in tune to her. The copywriter that I worked with did an amazing, incredible job capturing her personality, speaking directly to her ideal clients. And after she saw the copy that we had written for her, she thought it felt too personal. She wasn't ready to be that vulnerable. And so she changed it to a little bit more of a generic copy that truthfully spoke to no one specifically. It was just very general. And then when I put all of those pieces together, designed her homepage based on those branding decisions we made together and the copy that she put together and the fonts and the colors, all of it, she saw it and she said, no, that's not what I want it to look like. And this is not the first time I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen multiple times when I work with new business owners. Not every new business owner, but some. And I want to talk about why this happens because there is a reason. And more importantly, I want to talk about it and share it so that you can know how to avoid it because I don't want you to waste your money or your time. And I definitely don't want you to end up with a website that doesn't work for your business. And this isn't about blame. This is about sharing timing, the readiness, and understanding what professional design actually requires from you as the business owner if you're going into this project. The first thing is the difference between personal taste and strategic design. If you go back to my intro, I shared that I specifically love to design websites that are strategic, that attract our ideal clients and make you money. And there's a difference between personal taste and strategic design. And understanding this difference is really important before you invest in professional help, like with someone like me. Personal taste looks like you choosing colors because you love them. Maybe pink is your favorite color, so you want it on your website. Or you pick fonts because they feel pretty to you. You make design decisions based on what your friends think or what matches a room in your house or something that you saw on another website that you loved. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not saying don't pick something because you really love it or you saw it on another website that you love, but I want you to understand why you're picking something. And I get it. You're investing a lot into a website and you want to love it. That makes total sense. But here is where new business owners tend to get stuck. Strategic design means every single decision is made with your ideal client in mind and with a specific business goal. Colors aren't picked because they're pretty, they are picked because they attract your ideal client and they position you correctly in your market. Fonts aren't selected because they look nice, they are chosen for readability and for the feeling that they create, that emotional connection, and for how they position your brand. And design isn't about making something that looks good. It's about creating something that works, something that converts visitors into clients, that builds trust immediately when someone lands on your homepage. Every element has a purpose beyond looking nice. Looking nice is good, but that isn't the overall goal. I'll give you an example. I had a client that I worked with a few years ago, and she loved purple. She wanted purple all over her website. But her ideal clients were corporate professionals that she was working with. They need to trust her. And she was working with financials. So she was doing financial planning and money. And when you think of financial planners and brands that work with other corporate professionals, it needs to be a color that is trustworthy. And purple may have been her favorite color, but navy blue and in the blue palette was a better choice for her brand. It wasn't her favorite color, but it built that credibility that she needed with her ideal clients. Her personal preference is secondary to her business goals, and that is something that you want to keep in mind. The website that we're building, it's not for you. Yes, I want you to really like it. I want you to really love it and be so excited to share it with clients because you know it shares who you are, what you do, in your personality, and it makes money for you. That's the goal of the website. But it's not for you, it's for your ideal clients. And if you're making decisions based on what you like rather than what your clients need to see, you're a little bit off track. Now, this doesn't mean that your personality disappears. That's the exact opposite because I talk about how I want to bring your personality to life on screen, but it's your business's personality. And it doesn't mean you can't love your website. Your personality needs to serve a purpose, and your brand serves your business goals. It's all about your goals. What do you want your website to do? The disconnect between branding and website design that I see with new business owners is they don't understand how their selected branding, and when I say branding, their logo, their colors, and their fonts will actually look and work and function on a website. For example, when we do a visual branding phase for you, I might show you a brand board. It has logo concepts that you would choose from. It has logo your color palettes and your fonts, and there may be some graphic elements or some images that I think would match your brand. It looks really beautiful when you see it on that mood board, that branding board. You love it. You approve it. You are excited. Then I take the branding and apply it to your actual website, and then suddenly you don't like it anymore. Why does this happen? It's because you didn't understand how those colors would be used across pages on your website. And for me, I really like to bring out the personality of your brand. That is what I say front and center. So I'm not just integrating your branding a little bit into the website, like I'm going deep with your branding. And if you come to me with these fonts and these colors and this logo, I'm taking it to the next step and we are putting it on screen on your website. And so you need to understand how that's going to look when we translate your brand onto the website. New business owners sometimes don't understand how those colors will look. That bold accent color that you picked out, maybe it was this bright pink, was going to be your buttons and your headlines throughout the site. Maybe you picked fonts that looked pretty on the board, but you didn't think about how they'd look in paragraphs of text on your about page. You approved each individual element, but you didn't understand the system as a whole. Branding is a system. It's exactly that. It's not just pretty colors. I'm creating a system that will work across your entire website. The colors that we pick, I'm choosing a primary color that will represent your brand, and then an accent color that draws attention to your calls to action. I truly like to keep the amount of color that I use on your website, the different colors, to a minimum. I say 2 to 3. One main color, an accent color, and then maybe another color with some neutrals that will balance everything out. I'm always thinking about contrast ratios for accessibility as well, and how these colors will look on buttons and backgrounds and headers and footers. And if you pick a bright, bold color for your brand, you need to understand it's going to show up on your site, and it's not going to just be an accent here and there, unless it is an accent color that we're picking. But if it's your main color, it's going to be a part of your visual identity on every single page. And I happen to take it to the next level because that's the brand color, and I wanted to have a representation on that website. Same goes with the fonts. We're not just picking pretty fonts. We're picking ones that work together, the headline that grabs attention, and then the subheadline that creates that visual hierarchy, and then a font for your body that is readable, even on a mobile device. And they need to work together. The thing is that it was built as a system because we wanted it to be punchy. That's the reason why we chose it. And sometimes new business owners have a difficult time understanding why we make decisions. The reality hits when I present that homepage using everything that we created together, all the elements that you approved individually. You see your bold brand color on the buttons, you see it in the navigation, you see the graphic elements that we picked out throughout the page. The headline font might be big and bold on top of every section. And when you see your brand in action fully realized on that website, that's when a lot of new business owners tend to panic. It feels like too much, too bold, too colorful, too branded. And this is when they start asking to tone it down. Can we use less of that color? Can we make the font smaller? Can we simplify the design? And my designs aren't complicated. I really pride myself in creating modern, clean, simple designs, but it is incorporating your brand system. And what they don't realize is that when they're asking me to do that, they're taking away the entire system that makes the branding work. And here is what the disconnect is. It happens because a lot of new business owners have never been through the professional branding and design process. They don't know what to expect, and they don't know how individuals' elements come together on their website. Here's the key. They're imagining a website in their head based on other websites they've seen, but they don't have the expertise to translate a brand board into that functional website design. That's okay. That's why you hire me. But it means that you need to trust me as a designer to take all of those brand elements and apply them strategically. When you are approving that bright teal color, you are also approving it to be used throughout your site. That bold headline that you said yes to, you are approving bold headlines. They're attention grabbing, they're powerful. That's why we picked it. And sometimes business owners improve these ingredients and then get surprised when I bake the cake for the website. So how do you avoid this surprise, this disappointment? What you can do is you can ask your designer to show examples of how your branding will be applied. And I've started doing this. Before you approve your final brand elements, ask to see a mock-up or examples of how the colors will be used or how the font will look in different contexts. This helps, but I don't think that this will take away the shock and awe of when someone sees the final product on a website. And I say shock and awe because I find new business owners are sometimes in shock. And older, more seasoned business owners are in awe because they're like, oh, yes, that's me. But new business owners haven't gotten to that point yet. They haven't embraced who they truly are. Branding isn't just about how it looks. Back to what your website is and isn't. Your website isn't a work of art. I'm going to say it again. It is not a piece of art. As much as I like to say I like to design with the beauty in mind, it's not all about the beauty. It's not a portfolio piece for you to look at and admire. It's not something that should blend in and feel safe. It is a business tool. And it is an employee that works for you 24/7. It is a sales machine. And too many new business owners get so worried about the design and whether it looks perfect or whether the colors are too bold that they forget about the entire purpose of the website. The purpose is, like I shared in my intro, to attract your ideal clients, to build trust quickly, and to make money with your website. If your website looks beautiful, or it looks how you want it to look, but doesn't do those things, it's not working. And if your website has bold branding that feels a little scary, but it converts the visitors, the right visitors, into clients, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to. I would rather you have a website that's strategic and converts than one that is subtle, simple, safe, written to attract everyone, but doesn't bring in business. And here is why this is especially hard for new business owners. You are too close to it. You're in the beginning stages of your business. Everyone feels this is deeply personal. Your business is you. Every decision you make feels like it's a reflection of who you are. And you haven't had enough client interactions yet to know what resonates, what truly is you. You haven't tested messaging to see what converts. You're still figuring out your voice, your offers, your positioning. And that makes it really hard to make strategic decisions about your brand and your website. And I know because I have been there myself. I've talked about this many times. When I first started my business, I created a website that looked like every other web designer's website. And the copy read like every other website designer's copy. And I kept tweaking everything because I didn't know what worked yet. I hadn't found my voice. And you don't know what you don't know when you're new. New business owners don't quite understand the psychology behind website design. They haven't seen enough data about what converts. They don't know best practices that us designers use every single day. And they're making decisions in this little vacuum without the experience to back them up. And that's not a dig on new business owners. It's just reality. You can't know what you haven't learned. It's all part of this journey. And that's why hiring an expert like myself is so valuable, but it's also why you need to trust that expert. There's also this comparison trap. New business owners are still stuck in that comparison mode. I know I was when I started. They're looking at everyone else's website, trying to figure out what theirs should look like. And when I ask my clients to give me inspirational sites, I'm just trying to get that sense, that feeling of what I see when I go to those inspirational sites. I'm not trying to see this is the exact layout that I want and the exact colors that we want. I want that inspirational feeling. But new business owners tend to say things like, I want my website to look like hers, without understanding why hers actually works, why she made the decisions that this other business owner made. And they're copying this surface level design without understanding the strategy. There's also a confidence gap, and it's important to trust your professionals even when it's uncomfortable. You hired a designer like me because you don't know how to do it yourself, or you don't have time, or you're looking for my professional help. You looked at my portfolio, you love my work, and you decided to work with me. I'm interrupting this episode to ask you a question. Is your website working as hard as you are? You've invested in a website, but if visitors aren't becoming paying clients, something's missing. My website audit is a professional review where I will analyze your site and identify exactly what's blocking conversions. You'll get a prioritized action plan with specific changes to turn more browsers into buyers. So stop guessing what's wrong and get some clear answers. Book your website audit today. The link is in the show notes. Now back to the episode. And when I present something to you, you're suddenly second guessing everything, like I shared. It happens because of imposter syndrome. I think this is a large piece of it. It's loud when we're new in business. When you see the professional branding and the strategic copy, the words that position you as the expert that you are becoming, it can feel scary. It can feel like you're pretending to be something that you're not. The copy might feel too personal. The design might feel too bold. The whole thing, like I shared, might feel too much like you. And you retreat. You go back to what's comfortable instead of what would actually work. Now, I've worked with a lot of new business owners. The ones that have trusted the process, their projects have turned out beautifully and they are getting results. And I think the difference is they are willing to sit with the discomfort. More specifically, this happens a lot with the copy when I bring in a copywriter to write strategic, personality packed copy. The ones that trust me say, wow, this feels vulnerable, but they understand that vulnerability creates connection with their ideal clients. And I'll say it again, ideal clients. Or same thing goes for their bold branding. If they've seen it, they say it feels like a lot, but they trusted that this high quality design is what's going to make them stand out and attract the ideal clients. They aren't worried about the design being a work of art. They understand that the purpose of the site was to convert visitors. And those clients, their websites are working for them. They're getting leads, they're making money. And if you can't trust the process, what happens is you end up undoing all of that strategic work and it costs you because you paid for an expert, but you ended up with a DIY result. Your website might not convert because it doesn't speak to anyone specifically. It's too generic, too safe. You've wasted time and effort and energy and money, and you still don't have the confidence in your online presence. 6 months from now, you might be right back where you started, knowing you need to redo your website again. I had a client that I worked with a few years ago, and she was a new business at that time. And specifically, we worked with her writing copy. It didn't happen with the branding process. The visual brand, she was very trustworthy and wanted to go for it. But the copy specifically that we wrote, she felt it was uncomfortable, and she ended up rewriting it to be a lot more generic. Well, a year and a half later, she comes to me and she said, I think I'm ready to revisit this copy. And when we last spoke, I wasn't there yet. I didn't feel like I had a handle on who I was ready to help and who I wanted my brand to be. And that tells me that what I'm sharing with you is true. And it happens to a lot of new business owners. You're just not ready. And I want you to get into this mindset. If you are a new business owner and you're going to work with a designer and a copywriter and any other professionals, I want you to embrace the process and get comfortable even when it's uncomfortable. Trust that we all want what's best for you and keep going even when you question it. Trust the strategy. Trust your designers, even if it feels like a lot. But I'm asking you to trust your designer. How do you build this trust when you feel uncomfortable? I want you to think about why you hired them. You hired them because they're the experts. We've done this dozens or hundreds of times. We know what works. And secondly, if you feel like it's not right, it's not working, that's okay, because I'm not saying we get it right every single time. But I want you to think about asking questions. Instead of saying, let's just change this to that, if something doesn't feel right, have a conversation. If you don't like the colors that we've chosen or how it displays on the website, ask, why did you pick this color? Or why does this part of the website look like this? Can you explain the strategy? What is the strategy behind these colors or the way you've laid out this section or behind this copy? Because when you understand the why, it's easier to trust what we've designed. And third, give yourself permission to feel uncomfortable. You can tell your designer, this feels scary. I am not sure, but I want to trust the process. If someone tells me that this feels scary or I'm not sure about something, I am all there for having a conversation. Let's talk it out. Why do you feel like that? Let's get to the heart of it. Is it because it's making you a little bit uncomfortable because we are really taking a stand and putting it out there? Or is it for another reason? So, a couple of questions that I put together for asking yourself before hiring a designer. The first question is, can you clearly describe your ideal client in detail? I'm not talking about, woman between ages of 30 and 45. I am talking about who they are. What are they reading? What keeps them up at night? What are they struggling with? What transformation are they looking for? If you can't answer that, you might not be ready to work on these pieces for yourself. The second would be that problem that you solve for your ideal clients. Can you articulate your value in a way that makes sense to someone who's never heard of you before and it makes you special? And third, have you worked with enough clients to understand what they need to hear from you? Do you know their objections? What questions they ask? What makes them say yes? And then fourth, are your offers clear? Do you know what you're selling? who it's for, and how much it costs. Then there's your mindset. This might be even more important than that business clarity that I just talked about. Are you ready to be visible and put yourself out there? Are you ready for people to see you as the expert? Because if you're not, I guarantee you're going to tone down everything your designer creates, at least when you work with me and my partners that I work with, because we are passionate about bringing you on screen. And if you're not ready to be visible, you might be worried. You might want to pull back on the copy, simplify the design, make it feel a little bit safer. Can you handle feedback and trust expert guidance? When your designer explains why they made a choice, can you accept that, even if it's not what you would have chosen? And are you willing to prioritize strategy over personal preference? This is so big. Can you choose a color like a navy blue in my example, even if you love purple, because that navy blue serves your business goals? Do you have realistic expectations about what your website can do? Because it's a tool. It needs to work for you 24/7, but it's not magic. And those are the questions that I've come up with in the mindset things that I want you to keep in mind. And if you don't know the answer to those questions, or you aren't ready to really address that mindset, maybe you aren't ready, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that you'll never be ready. It just means you need to do some work first. And honestly, I'd rather you know that now than invest and end up with a website that you're unhappy with because you weren't ready for the result. So what do you do instead? If you listen to this whole episode that I've shared about and you're not ready for professional design, use a template. Pick something simple. Squarespace has some great templates. Showit. It has some great templates. I specifically love Showit because I find that their templates aren't generic. They do have a lot of personality. Especially, I love the designer Elizabeth McCreevy. She has some really cool templates, and they all have a little bit of spunk, a little bit of fun in them. You pick a template, and you can get out there with it and see, does this resonate or not? You're going to learn a lot about your business. And when you hire a professional later, you will have everything work so much better, and you'll appreciate the strategic work we do because you'll understand how hard it is to do everything yourself. Think about your foundation. Start working with your foundation with clients, have conversations, ask questions. Build your confidence in your offers and your pricing, and know exactly what you're selling and that you are proud of it, that you are ready to be visible and step into your role as the expert. And how you will know you're ready? You'll know you're ready when you can articulate your value clearly, when you've worked with enough clients to know exactly what they need to hear from you, and you're ready to be seen as the expert that you are, even if it feels scary. And that's an important one. I'm going to say it again. When you are ready to be seen as the expert that you are, even if it feels scary, and that you can trust yourself enough and you can also trust others. So let's see if I can wrap this up for you. Strategic design, it is different than personal taste. It's not about what you love. It's about what will attract your ideal clients. This discomfort that you feel is part of growth and is part of the journey. Your business, your website is a business tool. It isn't a work of art. It is a tool, an employee that works for your business 24/7. And timing matters more than you think. If you are a new business owner, it doesn't mean you can't work with a designer now, but it does mean you need to be honest about whether or not you're ready. So here we go. If you made it to the end of this episode, thank you so much for sticking with it. I know that was a lot today. And maybe for some new business owners, it may have been uncomfortable to hear, but I want to share with you because my goal is to help you make the best decision for your business. And sometimes that means having these honest conversations about timing and about readiness. If you've listened and you think you're not quite ready yet, I applaud you. That is amazing. That self-awareness is going to be so helpful for you and serve you going forward. And if you listened and you think you are ready, but you're nervous, I want to tell you that nervousness is good. The growth is worth it, and trust the process. Ask a lot of questions. Let your designer help you step into a bigger version of your business. And if you are in the middle of both of those camps and you're not sure, let's talk about it. You can book a discovery call in the show notes with me. We can have an honest conversation about where you are and what makes sense for your business right now. Maybe instead of a website design project, it's more of a website coaching call. We could talk about helping to make the website that you have a little bit more strategic and work for you in the time being while you figure out all of those pieces that I mentioned. Or maybe you are ready to invest in a new website because you have the answers that you need. So I thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next time. And that wraps up another episode of Website Design Made Simple. I hope you found the insights shared in this episode valuable and takes you one step closer to creating a website that attracts more of your ideal clients and builds your brand. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Your review will help us reach more small business owners like you who are ready to make more money with their website. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.